So it looks like 2019 strikes again, and the end of another geek slash pop culture saga comes to an end. Game of Thrones just ended. That's right. Simon says, "Let's talk about Game of Thrones." That's to not beat around the bush. It didn't end the way I wanted to. That's not to say I totally hated it. It did, it was okay. It was okay. I wanted more, and certainly there were way worse episodes this season than this one. This one felt, and I'm sure it felt a lot bad for a lot of people because they didn't like the way it ended. And it's an ending, there's always going to be some type of sore feelings when there's an ending. People get emotional about it. It didn't quite end the way, I guess a lot of people wanted it, myself included, but I didn't really expect it to end the way I personally wanted it to, because it just seemed that type of story that's not going to happen. And I know they make that point several times, and I saw a lot of memes about, if you think this story has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention. Yeah, I get it, okay? But to be fair, everybody that lived got their happy ending, except for Jon. And that's kind of messed up. It's kind of messed up because he's really the only one that did the right thing throughout, even at the cost of his life, his freedom, his love, both of his loves. He basically sacrificed, I want to say more than everybody else, because at the end of the day, he loses everything. His family, two of his loves, to stand by his ground, to stick by his morals. He paid every price there was to pay, including his life and more. And in the end, they just threw him back to the wolves, so to speak. They threw him to the wolf. They threw him with the wildlings. And maybe that's where he belongs. Maybe not. But I felt like a lot of the story arcs and endings were kind of a little bit fan backlash reactions. Like, I feel like, okay, so when they announced or they were going through the whole who's going to be king, and they suggested Bran, I immediately thought of all the angry, fan backlash reactions to Bran basically being useless and his entire storyline being rendered, nonsense by the whole, Battle of Winterfell and Night King situation and Arya situation with the Night King. It just felt like he had absolutely nothing to do. He served no function whatsoever. We followed him this entire time for no reason. And then I guess they kind of, writers, in my opinion, this is how it feels to me. I don't know if this was the case. I have no proof that this is what happened. It just feels kind of that way to me. It feels very tacked on, even though in a certain sense, as Tyrion said, Bran does kind of make the best sense to be the king, logically. But Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, Westeros is not a logical world. They don't make logical decisions, and he never wanted to be king. And he barely wanted to. He didn't participate at all in any of the battles or anything like that. He gave almost zero advice. So I'm not. Again, it feels like a very forced reaction to bad fan response. Bran being named the king. Whatever. That's my opinion. I have nothing to back that up other than a gut feeling and the feeling I got while I was watching it. So another thing I didn't like, or another thing that I felt was in response to a fan reaction was, the whole situation with Jon and Ghost. So you had that episode that passed where Jon doesn't say anything at all to Ghost. He's like, yeah, whatever. He just turns around and walks out on Ghost, and Ghost is like, what the hell, man? I lost an ear for you. Like, I've been protecting you this whole time. We grew up together. You raised me since I was a baby, and now you're just gonna peace out. Like, you're not even flying a damn dragon. You're just taking a horse to King's Landing. Like, a lot of people were mad about it. That was actually a big fan backlash on the creators for not, having Jon have any type of farewell to his lifetime companion at this point that has protected him and saved his life actually on multiple occasions throughout the series. And their response was they didn't do it because they didn't have the money. And I guess when you have a whole bunch of fans super pissed off at you not taking like 30 seconds of an episode after having like 3 years, 2 years hiatus, whatever it was, just for him to say bye, was a pretty bad idea. I mean, I think they got the point that, hey, we better find some money to do this, because a lot of people are pissed off. This is costing a lot of money, and we could have thrown in 30 seconds of him just, give us a pat on the head, say bye. So I felt like that was forced too. Again, and these are just my initial reactions to everything. So take it with a grain of salt. But again, a lot of the story arc felt contrived. Like, why is Arya? What point did Arya have in being in King's Landing? None that I could see. I mean, she didn't do anything other than, improbably survive ridiculous odds, which, again, I said this in my last video. If she would kill all the, I didn't like that she killed the Night King. Okay, that was a supernatural arc, and that really belonged to either Bran or Daenerys or Jon. I feel like any of those three people, or the Night Watcher, there's several people, Melisandre, several people that could have fulfilled that job and fulfilled a lot of story arcs and closed the loop on a lot of story arcs by having them finish off the Night King. Because Arya really had nothing whatsoever to do with the Night King. Now, what Arya did have a lot to do with is killing the people that wronged her family, and getting revenge for a lot of wrongful deaths. That has been like her whole, story arc. The whole reason she wants to be a faceless man is so she can take her revenge and get justice for a lot of the injustices she sees as a child of war. So she's in a city and she's able to kill the Night King, who's got all these supernatural White Walkers surrounded by them. All the generals, not even like little, zombies, whatever. Like the actual legit dude generals with, the horses and the cool ice swords and all that jazz. She's able to slip past all of them to like jump out of nowhere and kill the Night King. But in a city of Unsullied, who all wear the same armor and look exactly the same, you're telling me that a faceless man, a girl trained to be a faceless man, who has actually shown that she can change her face and infiltrate places and kill people, she can't get to Daenerys? That doesn't seem like a plot hole to anybody at all? Come on. You're not even trying. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're not even trying. What else do we got? Again, nothing, no payout whatsoever to Jon being a Targaryen. It served zero function. And again, that's one of these things that I feel like that served a purpose. Like, we were told that for a reason. And in the TV series, at least, I mean, you have to understand that this is a huge revelation, right? It should have major consequences on the entire world. But instead, in this TV series, we have a few scenes of trumped up drama, and that's it. It doesn't play out at all. It has no payoff whatsoever. In fact, if you would take out that Jon learns that he's a Targaryen, that everybody learns he's a Targaryen, you would have almost zero difference in story. He would still be with Daenerys. He would march down to the wall, or he would march down to King's Landing. He would see that she goes crazy and she kills everybody. Everything is the same. There's no difference whatsoever. That revelation didn't affect the story at all, other than the bit of the few scenes, 1 or 2 episode scenes where, like, there's a bit of trumped up drama because, is he going to protect her? Maybe not, because does he want the throne and she's going crazy? And he would have seen that regardless. Again, nothing would have changed. Nothing at all would have changed, and therefore it's an inconsistency. It renders a total an entire plot arc and story arc useless, for the sake of trumped up drama. What's the point? What's the point? And here's the thing, because I've actually had this conversation with people before. I understand that the TV show and the book is going to be different. I do. I understand. I get that the different mediums are going to have things are going to play out. Like comic books are not always going to be like the movies. I wish they were, but I understand that they're not going to be all the time. Some things work in the comic books and a book, and some things don't work on TV. So okay, I get it. However, that does not give you carte blanche excuse to be bad. Bad writing is bad writing, whether it's for a book or a TV series or a comic book or whatever the case may be, or a movie. It's just bad writing, and that doesn't excuse bad writing. Like, you can't excuse the inconsistencies and the plot holes and the rendering of plot holes and or rendering of story arcs and creative arcs mute and unnecessary because it's a TV series. It's going to be different than the book. Duh. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a paid commodity, and this is what people need to understand. Like, even the writers are like, oh, what's up with all these fans demanding that, we do right by them? Yeah, I do. Just like you, Mr. Writer, if you went to go get a service done, or you went to a restaurant and you got a meal, you wouldn't want a bad meal, right? Like, you would have refused to pay for it, or you'd say something if the meal was bad at the very least. In the same way that you pay for something and you expect that something to be good or worth the money that you pay for it, HBO is a paid subscription, buddy. Comic books, movies, TV, all of that stuff is paid for by somebody. It's a media consumption, and it's paid for. And therefore, you do have a certain obligation to put out a good quality product. And when you don't put out a good quality product, it is in fact your fault. You're going to have to deal with that criticism. I'm sorry. If you can't handle the criticism and you didn't do a job that many, many people thought was good, then there's a problem. Maybe you shouldn't have done that job. Maybe you should have passed it on to somebody else. Or maybe you just got to deal with the fact that you didn't do as good a job as you should have. And, maybe next time you do better. Or you try to correct those problems. But absolutely, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you have these fans and these actors and whatever, like, why do people think that they deserve a say in how, this goes and whether it's good or not? Of course we do. Of course. These people are the ones that are paying for this service, and therefore they deserve a good service. And I'm not saying that everybody deserves a specific story that they're going to like, but they deserve to have a story that doesn't have plot holes, that doesn't have inconsistencies, that the quality is very noticeably deteriorating from, one season to the next. Yeah, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to live with the fact that you didn't do as good a job as you thought you did. And look, if a lot of people, half maybe of your audience, disagrees with the choices and the directions that you've taken, that should say something to you. It should say something that the seasons have been going progressively. They were good until we stopped where Martin wrote, and then they started sliding downhill. That should tell you something about your writing and your direction that you went for. These are decisions that you decided to make. When you decided to deviate from that story and started to tell your own story and started to make your own decisions about what you thought should happen, and people didn't like it, and it invariably changed the direction of the series and the fan response to that series, that is 100% your fault. I'm sorry to say, but there's no other way for you to see that fact. That's the way it is. You're just going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry to break it to you. Them's the breaks. Sorry. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about Game of Thrones, about the ending, or what you would have liked to see. I personally, I want to say I'm holding out hope to we'll get the George R. R. Martin to finish the books, but at this point, I really don't think that's going to happen. I still very, very much like the books and Song of Ice and Fire. I hope one day that he'll finish them so we can actually get their true ending to this story. At this point, though, I'm not holding out much hope. I just want to also say, because I know, I want to reiterate that I have a lot of time and money and time invested in A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. I've read the books since they came out. I believe I started on them when the second one came out. And I read the first one, then I read the second one. Then when the third one came out, I reread the first and second one, read the third one. When the fourth one came out, I reread the first, second, and third one, and read the fourth one, etc., until I was current. And then I more or less read them every couple of years. So I was pretty well invested in both the series and the TV show. And actually, before the TV show came out, I tried to get a whole bunch of people to read the books first. I was like, look, HBO has been doing Sopranos, all these awesome shows, Deadwood. they're gonna make this a TV show, and it's gonna be awesome. I promise you. And they were like, I don't like dragons, and that's ridiculous. And look what we got now. One of the most watched TV shows of all time. And I don't want to. I'm not trying to blast it. I'm not trying to take away people's opinion towards it, or sully a show that they liked. Unfortunately, the last season did not do. The last season and the season before did not do what I wanted it to do. Was it the worst ending and the worst thing ever? No. I mean, the Winterfell battle was pretty bad, though. It's got to be one of the worst payoffs to a story, maybe ever. But other than that, I mean, I still very much enjoyed the Game of Thrones for the most part, except for the last season or so. That's all. I'm very much looking forward to his Dark Materials. If you guys haven't read those books, you should. I'm very much looking for HBO's new series on that. So we'll probably do a cast on that soon. This has been Jose with Simon Says. Let's talk about Game of Thrones. Like, comment below, and most importantly, share with your friends. If they like Game of Thrones, if they like geek culture, share with them. Get them in on the conversation. And we'd like to hear from you. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. See you later.